Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast / YouTube / We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. My boy Jay, he's over there in the six. How you doing, my dog?
I'm doing great, man. It's missed the episode, but I'm happy to be back. Also, a big day for my Raiders, man. Wild card tonight, so looking for that. And we got a special guest, man, from SMH 24, our guy over there, big Bulls fan. What tell the guys what's up, the fans what's up, Garrett? Happy back on the show, man.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be back. I'm glad that you guys allowed me to be back on the show. And yeah, I mean, this should be a pretty good episode. Let's get into it.
Man, absolutely. Let's get straight into it, man. Just like how Jay said, Garrett is from the Super Mario Hoops 24 channel. Great YouTube channel. I'll put all of Garrett's work in the description down below, man. So make sure you check out that. But Garrett, over here on Clutch Talk, what we like to do is we like to skip the small talk and we like to get straight into the hoop talk, man. So are you guys ready to get into that hoop talk?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So we got a jam-packed episode today, guys. And the first segment we're gonna start off here is who's most likely to. And the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna read off a statement here, and then you guys are gonna tell me who you guys feel that is most likely to. You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Let's do it, guys. So look, guys, 1 week ago, the Spurs were sitting pretty at the 10th seed, but after going on a 5-game losing streak, they dropped to the 13th seed. And after the Kings' 3-game win streak, they've been able to jump to the 10th seed. So we clearly see that seeds 10 through 13 is flip-flopping from the Kings to the Spurs to the Blazers and the Pelicans. So out of all those teams, Kings, Blazers, Spurs, Pelicans, who is most likely to get that last play-in spot, which is that 10th seed? I don't know if Jay Hill, you want to kick it off here for us, but who do you feel is most likely to get that last 10th seed, Jay?
I'm gonna go with the Spurs right now. I believe they, out of that whole bunch, out of those 4 teams you mentioned, they clearly have the best coach and Greg Popovich. Those young stars are ready to go. DeJounte Murray's been having a breakout season. He was doing a lot of this we saw last year, but he's doing even more of it. I think Derek White's been injured, he's been in COVID protocol, so that has a lot to do with why they've been on this 5-game losing streak, as well as some other pieces that are, instrumental for what they've been doing this year. So I think the Spurs are going to get back on track, led by Pop, and kind of get back to their winning ways. And out of all those teams you mentioned, De'Aaron Fox has been mentioned in a lot of trade talks. We don't know if he's going to end up on the team in this next month. We don't know what the Blazers are looking like, if they're going to be looking to move guys, those veteran pieces, Robert Covington and Yusuf Nurkic, to name a few, as well as we don't know the health of Dame. And then you name 2 teams in the Pelicans. Their guys aren't healthy. Obviously, Zion's not back, so I'm just skeptical about that. So I think the Spurs, to keep the answer short, I think are going to be the 10th seed come playoff time.
What about you, Garrett?
Okay, so I'm sure you guys remember like the bubble and when they had those 8 games like that they played. And I remember it was a kind of a similar situation like this. There's about 4 or 5 teams. Everyone's like, who's going to get that last spot? And everyone's like, oh, it's going to be the Pelicans, or oh, it's going to be the Grizzlies. And meanwhile, I was like pretty much one of the only ones that was like, it's going to be the Portland Trail Blazers. And simply for the fact that like they got guys like Dame and CJ, and that's kind of enough, I think, in this situation. Now, right now, they don't have Dame, and we don't know if he's even going to be back this season. I think CJ should by some time, although he had a pretty serious injury too. But it's hard to bet against the Trailblazers. They have the longest active playoff streak of any team in the league. And I mean, Anthony Simons has looked great. Norman Powell, he's missed a few games here and there. Eventually, he's going to be like back full time. And then Yusuf Nurkic, I believe he just came back as well. These other teams like the Sacramento Kings, I believe they're probably going to be shopping guys at the trade deadline. So I don't know how we can necessarily predict like what they're going to look like. The Spurs would probably be like my next pick, though. I think they're probably the team that's like, if it's not going to be Portland, it's probably going to be the Spurs. But especially if Dame does come back sometime this year, and then CJ, I believe he should be back in sure time. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to bet against them.
He's going to come back.
Yeah, he's going to be back Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard. It's just hard to get bet against Portland. So that's just my pick.
Absolutely, man. And if we're talking about a fully healthy roster of all these teams, I would be right there with you, and I would feel very comfortable with going with Portland, but only on the fact that I don't know if Dame and that entire Portland team's got enough time to really play together. It's been like Dames was hurt, then CJ was hurt, and then this happened to Yusuf Nurkic, and I feel like they haven't really got much time together. Although the Spurs, like how Jay said, they've been on this 5-game losing streak because of Derek White, but I believe in their coaching. I definitely believe in their roster more than the Pelicans roster and more than the Pelicans coaching. The Kings, like how both of you said, I agree. I think they're going to be looking to ship people come trade deadline. So that really eliminates all these teams just by process of elimination to the Spurs, man. So I'm right there with you on this one, Jay, to go with the Spurs. But absolutely, Garrett, I feel you. I feel you on that Blazers point, because the Blazers healthy, man. They are a scary team. That's one of the teams that you don't want to see, man. Like if they end up getting caught in that 8th seed, that's a team that nobody really wants to see fully healthy, man. But
yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, no, Blazers fully healthy, Garrett, I for sure would take them. But I just think they're going to be looking to move some of those veteran pieces, namely Robert Covington, to possibly back to
He's
to Chicago, maybe. Actually, Chicago. Be on the lookout for that.
I do not want Robert Covington.
I think he'd be great for y'all. You need some. You could play small with him potentially in the lineup, but that's just an early option.
Early
what
prediction?
I saw last night.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
I know we need defense and all, but like just by watching Robert Covington, it's like his lack of just. It's crazy. I've never seen a guy miss more open threes than Robert Covington. But I don't know. Like, I would probably like lose my mind if he was on the Bulls, because it's like, dude, like you're getting every opportunity presented to you, especially if he's playing with a guy like Lonzo. Like, he's going to get you like a ton of open looks. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't be able to handle Robert Covington on my team. He'd help defensively, but still, I just don't know if it's worth it.
He definitely would be big help defensively, man. But got to see if that's gonna be worth it offensive wise. But what's up, Jay?
Garrett, what about another name for you? What about Jakob Poeltl? But you have to give up Patrick Williams for that rim protection. That physicality, I mean.
I wouldn't do that. I think Patrick Williams, like, I feel like people got too, like they tried like kind of disrespecting him a little bit in the few games he played early this year. And they're like, oh, he's a bust. Like he's not going to pan out, whatever. Just because people are kind of impatient with younger players now. But trading him, I feel like he could personally, like Patrick Williams could be, I'm not going to say Kawhi Leonard, but I think he could have a lot of similar qualities of him.
Absolutely.
And trading him for a guy like Jakob Poeltl, who, I mean, he's been pretty good too, but I just don't think he has the same ceiling as Patrick Williams. And I would love Jakob Poeltl on my team as like the backup center, but don't know if I'm willing to part ways with Patrick Williams. I mean, they could take Tony Bradley for all I care. I mean, go ahead, Tony Bradley for Jakob Poeltl, and I'll do it.
All right. So then, while we're on the lines of just kind of talking about the Bulls, I do want to ask you a question, Gary, because Jay brought up the point of trading for Jakob Poeltl, and I agree with you with your point in that I think Patrick has a higher ceiling than Jakob Poeltl, but there is a championship window, right? Every team is a championship window that you must meet, and we don't know how long this championship window is going to last for the Bulls right now. I mean, I have the Bulls as a serious contender this year, and they seriously have a chance of being the champions. But my only issue is that rim protection and that defense. And I think that Patrick Williams has a higher ceiling, but do you really want to risk this DeMar Lonzo and Zach LaVine? Do you want to risk this championship window for the growth of Patrick Williams, or do you want to bring in a player that's going to help the winning now? Just for a Bulls fan, like how do you feel about that? Do you want to prioritize the growth or the championship window?
You see, I think most Bulls fans would probably disagree with me on this, but I think I personally think that we could like wait it out, like for Patrick Williams. I mean, he's expected to be back. He might even come back before the season ends, they say, but I mean, he's expected to be back at least by the start of next year. So, and we got a guy like that who could help out a lot defensively. And I mean, offensively, I think he has tools again to elevate his game. But I mean, guys like DeMar, he's like 31 years old or something like that. Vucevic is around like 29, 30. But these guys like have been relatively like durable like throughout their career. Like most of the reasons that they've been out this year have been like COVID or safety protocols or something like that. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that we can wait it out. The other guys like that are part of the core of the team, you know, guys like Levine, Lonzo, Dosunmu, Kobe White, like all those guys are pretty young. Troy Brown Jr. So I wouldn't necessarily like go all in. Like, yeah, it would be nice to come in the first year and like win it all and everything. But I mean, I think that just taking a step in the right direction, even if we didn't win the championship, but just like where we're at right now is already like a big improvement. And then maybe next year or the year after, like then we can make like that serious push. Like if we don't this year, but yeah, that's just what I think.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that I just wanted to check the temperature on that from a expert Bulls fan, man. But so then let's keep it pushing, guys, and let's talk about our next statement here, and that is who is most likely to get shipped from this rebuilding Indiana Pacers team. Garrett, I know you're over there in Indiana, so I don't know if you want to lead it off here for us and tell us who you think is going to be the first player to get shipped.
I mean, I think the cliche answer would be Miles Turner, just for the simple fact that he's been in trade rumors like ever since Paul George was on the team. Like it seems like every year there's always like a new Miles Turner like trade package being made, and he's still there. But I don't know. I just feel like history is going to repeat itself, and he might get traded. But I think the first trade that they'll do might be to get rid of like Karis LeVert. I know like one of the biggest things that Pacers fans have been upset with this year is their inability to close games. I believe they're first in the whole NBA in first half points, and then they're like last in second half points. And a big reason of that is because Karis LeVert, he has the ball in his hands a lot down the stretch, and then he's not creating, good looks, and he's often turning the ball over. He did it in that game I went to against the Bulls like 2 weeks ago. Like he was kind of one of the biggest reasons they lost down the stretch after they took the lead. So I don't know. Like I just think he's probably going to be gone. And I think maybe him and Miles Turner might be the only two notable people moved. I don't know if they'd move Sabonis. Obviously, they can't trade Brogdon. So I don't know. That's where I think LeVert would be, like, to answer your question, the first guy they move.
Okay. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm right there with Patrick. I think it's one of the two. It's either Turner or Karis LeVert. And actually, that specific game that you were at, Garrett, the game where DeMar hit that game winner, I saw the same thing from Karis LeVert, down the stretch. I question his decisions down the stretch, the shots he takes. There was a lot of looks, even some timely turnovers that kept the Bulls in the game when he didn't have to make those decisions. And I think he's definitely expendable. I think they believe more in, Sabonis and Brogdon moving towards the future, if not just seeing what they can do maybe next year when they got all their guys back, and try to get some young guys, maybe some draft picks in return, and then kind of still have Sabonis and keep that core for a little bit. I think Miles Turner's definitely getting the short end of the stick there, but within reason. I think between him and Sabonis can do more, just playmaking, his ability to rebound and score. Miles Turner is definitely a great secondary or third option on a championship team, even kind of fourth. I think his defensive ability is the best thing that he can bring to that, his rim protection. So that's why there's going to be a lot of suitors and teams inquiring about him. And I think he'll be kind of the first to go, if not Karis LeVert, a team who needs kind of that scoring Jordan Clarkson kind of player off the bench. I don't believe he's a starter on a championship team. That's just how I think. I think he's best in kind of a 6-man role, mercenary type of role. So that's my answer.
Who? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like Karis LeVert reminds me of, like, if you guys remember Ricky Davis.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It seemed like, when he was hitting his shots, like, this guy was almost unguardable. When he wasn't, like, he just looked kind of like a bonehead out there, like, to put it simply. And he could do a little bit of everything, but I don't know, like that's kind of the vibes I get from Karis LeVert. But that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Karis
Yeah.
LeVert, aka Ricky Davis, man. But yeah, I'm right there with both of you guys. I think that Miles Turner will most likely be the first to get shipped, only because he is the most expendable. All 29 other teams in the NBA would most likely want a rim protector, would most likely want an elite rim protector like him, man. So yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think that'll be the easiest for the Pacers to ship out, man. But let's keep it pushing here, guys, and let's get to our next statement here. So we've been seeing at the top of the West, the Warriors and the Suns have been flip-flopping for the best record in the entire league. So out of these two teams, the Warriors and the Suns, by the end of the season, who is most likely to finish with the best record in the entire league? Jay, I don't know if you want to kick this one off for us.
I mean, honestly, that's a tough question. I think I'd go more with, shoot, I don't even know. Maybe I think it's just ultimately going to come down to who's playing. Like, I would say more of the Suns, because they have the ability to, kind of play everyone. I think the Warriors are fine with taking, the second or third seed, as long as they're in the top three. But I think that ultimately both teams would love to have home court advantage. And I think the Warriors may try to gun with that, but we've seen in the past with them that didn't work out too great for them in 2016 when they got that first seed and then, blew that 3-1 lead, the historic 3-1 lead against the Cavs. And I think they're more inclined just to rest guys. And if it means getting the second seed, I think they're comfortable with that. And I think the Suns might be pushing a little heavier for that number one seed in the West, and maybe ultimately the best record in the league, so they can try to have home court advantage throughout. So I think maybe more the Suns, with the Warriors trying to integrate some guys, give some guys some rest. They'll be more comfortable sitting in that 2 seed. So I'll go with the Suns for now.
What about you, Garrett?
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with Jay Hill. I think at the start of the season, I had the Suns as like my first seed, like going in. So I think that, I'm still going to stand by that right now they're in the first seed. But I don't know. I think that the Warriors, like, obviously, like, reintegrating some of these other guys, like, Clay, and eventually they're going to add Wiseman back. And they've been without like Draymond, and like Gary Payton just missed the game the other day. So it's like, they're kind of like in a weird stretch where it's like, they got to get everyone like integrated. I feel like someone's going to be watching this and they're going to be like, oh, he's just saying that because he's salty. The Bulls got spanked by the Warriors. And that may be true. But no, I think realistically, I think the Suns are going to be the first seed. And to even add to this, like, I don't know, like, not just like for the Warriors' sake, but also even the Suns, like, if they want the 1 seed, they might want to look out for the Grizzlies, like the way they've been playing lately. So I don't know, but I'm a roll with Phoenix as well on this one.
Okay, yeah, I'm right there with you guys for Phoenix, man. And right now, Phoenix has the best road record right now in the league, and honestly, I genuinely believe that like they are holding on to all these feelings that everyone had about them last year, saying like they're not for real, and I think that they're generally just trying to gun for that top spot in the league, to where everyone's like, oh well, we're not for real. Where look, now we're sitting at the top of the league with the best road record. So I think that I'm gonna agree with both of you guys in what you guys both said, and that the Warriors aren't as looking forward to being like, oh, look at us, we're proven we are that for real team that you guys doubted us. And I think that the Suns are a bit more worried about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with the 3-way tie with the Suns 3-way agreement with the Suns. And then let's move to our last statement here. So both the Celtics and the Hawks have been having disappointing seasons so far, both teams sitting outside of the top 10 seeds. So who is most likely to not, out of those two teams, not even make the play-in? So 10 seed or below?
I'll start. So I think that personally, the Atlanta Hawks are more likely to. I think, though, that the Celtics probably had more expectations, like personally going into this year. And that seems weird because like the Hawks made the conference finals, but I feel like a lot of people like kind of wrote them off like a little bit, like even going into this season. So, that's where I sit with that. But the Hawks just look terrible. I think they're like 28th in defense right now. They're not really great either at like rebounding. And that's like kind of weird because like you got Capella, you got Collins, You got Okongwu and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like, I think I was kind of confused by the Cam Reddish move. I saw that he did, like, I guess, request out like a while ago. So maybe that's why. But I mean, they probably could have put more effort to like making that work out, like before they just got rid of him. And it's not like they got really much back for him. I mean, they got Kevin Knox, who he could be pretty good, but I mean, if he gets the same opportunity he got in New York, then it's almost like an L trade already, because it's like he's not going to be contributing much to the Hawks. So I don't know, like, they need to do something. I personally didn't think the Hawks, now I didn't think they were going to be this bad, but I didn't think they were going to be like the team that a lot of other people were hyping them up to be before the season. I think Nate McMillan got overhyped, a little overrated, like last year as a head coach. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where I stand. I think the Hawks, they're more likely to miss out. I think they're even closer to like the Pacers right now than they are like the 11 seed, like who I think is like the Knicks, or maybe it is the Celtics or something. But I think they're like tied maybe, but I don't know. Like, they got to fix something.
Yeah, I'm right there, Richard. And then Jay, what do you got? Celtics or Hawks? Who's gonna miss the play-in?
I'm gonna go with the Hawks right now. Just in terms of, I don't really know what they're doing right now. I think I like the move of giving up Cam Reddish, but to me, I think to free up some time, because they had, a kind of a three-way jam with all those guys, Bogdanovich, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, who just came back from injury, and then Cam Reddish. So it was kind of just a fight for minutes. So you never really knew who was going to get minutes night to night. Now each of them can get about 30 minutes around that time of game. And I think we're going to see some continued development for those guys and more of an opportunity, which is good. Knowing that they're going to get a certain amount of playing time night to night can be good and beneficial, especially for a young player trying to develop in the league. You look at Cam Reddish, and you talked about it, Garrett, why the Knicks were able to get him for so cheap. And a lot of it, I think, a lot of teams around the league knew that the Hawks were desperate maybe to get him off. He had, like you said, he had asked for a trade. So that was why maybe they were able to get him for a discount. But it's definitely a head scratcher, because we've all seen the potential from what Cam Reddish can do. And then, like you mentioned, Kevin Knox really hasn't had much of a time to shine besides, maybe his first 2 years and a half maybe. But and they're kind of very similar player. They play the same position, haven't got much of a time to shine and put in work. But I'm gonna go with the Celtics right now, because I think they got to make the playoffs, or JB or Jason Tatum's gone. In my opinion, I think they're gonna be looking to move those guys if they don't even get the play-in game, let alone the playoffs. I think it's one of those guys is out, so I think they really know that, and it's sense of urgency for them. Okay, more so than the Hawks. Yeah. Okay,
so you got the Celtics making the play-in, right, Jay?
Yeah, I got the Celtics making the play-in over the Hawks. If we're choosing between the two, I think both of them will make it though.
Okay. Yeah. I actually, if we're choosing between the two, I actually think that the Celtics aren't going to make it, man. I've been saying since the beginning of the season, I don't know how Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Dennis Schroeder, the three ISO players, are going to really work out and be a good team in this league. I've been saying that since the beginning of the season, but I mean, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, their talent level is just so insane that it just kind of ends up working out. But then with the Hawks, man, it's crazy because they were just in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and it's not like they got some like Phoenix Suns run. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, they definitely got some fortunate teams, but they didn't get every single team fortunate, and they were playing very well last year. I know Jay, he was, man, number one Hawks guy last year. He was talking to telling me that the Hawks are going to beat the Sixers. I was like, no, they're not. They beat the Sixers. And then they said the Hawks going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I said, no, they're not. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I just think that I think the Hawks are going to be able to turn this around and figure it out, man, because I just don't think it was necessarily a fluke that they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And I think that they've been dealing with a lot of injuries, not have a lot of consistency, but I think that they will be able to turn around and make that play in over the Celtics, man.
I mean, I agree with that. I see what you're saying about might be able to figure it out, but that's kind of why I have both of them making. But between the two, I think the Celtics will be a higher seed. But another reason for concern, and we got to be monitoring that towards the deadline, is John Collins recently coming out and saying he's frustrated with the way his role for the Hawks, which is definitely concerning. You know, we saw him get the bag in the offseason, and he's still saying this. That's very concerning for their number 2 guy, you know, behind Trey. For him to come out and say that publicly is very concerning. So we got to monitor that around deadline. I don't know if he'll be moved, but definitely some reason for concern there, and the ability for the Hawks to be, you know, in considerable fashion and good fashion come around, you know, playoff time, or get in the play-in for that matter. So
absolutely, Jay.
I
go ahead, Garrett.
I was just gonna say, I think that like it also shouldn't be forgotten that they both haven't like a good chance. There's a good chance that they both miss it. You know, like we just the way they're playing. I mean, like we don't know if they'll even turn it around. Because like both these teams, like I haven't really been high on. Like I know I touched on the Hawks, but like the Celtics, I haven't really been high on either. So I wouldn't be surprised if they both missed it, and instead, like, you know, the Knicks and the Wizards or whatever, like get those last few spots. But
that'd be crazy.
I don't know,
man. That would be crazy, man. But absolutely, man. So all right, so then let's go ahead and get to our next segment here. This is a new segment we're introducing here, man. So we're finally halfway through the season, guys. So I figured, why not, you know, bring the guys on the pod, and then let's answer some of these halfway through the season questions. So for all of these, you can answer these as a player or as a team. It's just totally your choice, whatever comes to mind. But I'll go ahead and read off the first question here. So through the first half of the season, what team or what player to you has been the biggest surprise?
I guess like for me personally, I think the biggest surprise, okay, I'm gonna give 2 answers, I guess. For one, I will say it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, and simply like their kind of dynamic duo of Garland and Jared Allen. And I won't even really sleep on Mobley because he's shown his flashes too. But I think like, especially with the narrative that was built around Darius Garland, like in his rookie year, and they said he was going to be like a bust. Like he was just, I think people called him like the worst player in the NBA, like after his first season. And like now we're here and he looks like he might be an all-star. Like Jared Allen looks like arguably a top 5 center in the league, probably at least like top 6, top 7 or so. And he might be an all-star too. So I think that just like the way the Cavs are playing, like nobody could have saw this coming. I think I had them like 14th, like before the season started. And now they're like above a playing spot. And then the other one I'll say is just like the Toronto Raptors. I think that everyone wrote them off. You know, obviously they were written off after they lost Kawhi, and then they came out and got the 2nd seed. Then last year, people don't realize that they were hit with, you know, obviously the spike and like COVID and stuff, and then people getting injured. And then, you know, obviously losing guys like Kyle Lowry and Ibaka and stuff like that. People stopped like paying attention to them, it seemed like. But, you know, Fred VanVleet, like he might be an all-star this year. And if Siakam hadn't missed so many games, he might be an all-star this year. You know, Gary Trent Jr., like when he's on, like he's one of the most lethal players like in the whole league. And then OG Anunoby, he got off to a great start early this year, and then I think he missed some time. And then, you know, like all these other guys like on their team, Scotty Barnes too, like he's putting up like a possible rookie of the year campaign. Like you can't sleep on them, and you really can't sleep on Nick Nurse. I mean, as a result, like he won Coach of the Year a few years ago. So yeah, I mean that's just like where I sit.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. In the East, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers sitting at, you know, the 6th seed, 25-18, looking at their record right now. I said no one, including myself, I actually had them in our preseason, you know, Eastern Conference predictions. I had them as the worst team in the East, and boy, was I wrong. Led by Darius Garland, like you said, Evan Mobley looking like a future, you know, all-star star. Not so much yet. You know, we heard Junior say that on the last episode, John, about him not being a star yet, which is true. But then you look at Jared Allen, you know, I think he's top 10, top 5 big, however you want to say it. And the rest of their players. Unfortunately, Ricky Rubio going down. I think they could have been better, maybe a top 5 seed when it's all said and done. But I think the Cavaliers biggest surprise in the East. And then I flip it over to the next side and a team who's the 3rd seed. The Memphis Grizzlies. I think that's definitely the biggest surprise. 30 and 15 games over 500. Led by Ja Morant. Even when he's not, we've seen them 10-2 or 11-2 record without him. So that just shows off the depth of that team. He was out for a month. They were able to sustain and play, some amazing basketball, arguably the best basketball, streak that we've seen besides the Suns. Obviously that ended last night against the Mavericks, but they're playing some great basketball. We've seen guys, plug and play guys, who've been able to step up when guys are out. So I think the Grizzlies are definitely, to me, I view the Warriors as the best team in the West and in the league for that matter. But I would not, if I was any team in the West, I would not want to see the Grizzlies because I think they're the scariest and, youngest, hungriest team in the West. So it's Grizzlies for me in the West.
Yeah, you know what? To be real with you, Jay, I really was gonna go Cavs because I'm like, man, I had them as like the second to worst team in the league. I didn't think the 3 7-footers were gonna work out. I still wasn't high on Garland, but after hearing what you just said, Jay, you're right. It's absolutely the Memphis Grizzlies because nobody had the Memphis Grizzlies sitting in the top 3 seed, going on a 11-game win streak, and then when missing your best player going 11-2. So absolutely, Jay, honestly, you convinced me on that one. The Memphis Grizzlies have absolutely, in my opinion, been the biggest surprise. And then if we keep it pushing, let's jump to the opposite side. Which team has been the biggest disappointment to you, or which player? You answer how you want.
Jay, you know what my answer is, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers sitting at the 7th seed. I believe they're 500 right now. I think that's honestly like a little bit of a wish, like a good thing that they're 500 and be able to, despite all the injuries we've seen. I just think that the offseason signing of Russell Westbrook, excuse me, was the worst thing that happened to that franchise in a while. And I think obviously nothing against Russell Westbrook. I always have to slow down and say it there, man. But I think that just he's not a great basketball player. Nothing to do with his character and what he brings to that team. And I think in his head, like we saw, I'm going to talk more about that Kings Lakers game down the stretch. When you're 2 for 15 and despite the defense wants you to take threes and he still continues to settle for those shots. When you got guys like, I'm even more comfortable with Austin Reeves, a rookie, Malik Monk, LeBron, obviously, those guys taking those shots instead of a guy who's 2 for 15. And I think that's the biggest weakness that Laker roster has right now, despite my questions about their depth. But I think, they got to think about benching him because I think as long as he's running that point and taking up significant minutes and shots, I think it's a huge disappointment for the Lakers. And that's my biggest disappointment this season at the Lakers.
Absolutely. What about you, Garrett?
Yeah, Jay Hill, I think you were saying it right. Russell Westbrook. No. But I mean, I'm sorry to go down the same road, but it's got to be the Lakers. I think that everyone expected them to be like head and shoulders above every other team, at least in the Western Conference, because I think people assume the Nets' big three would all be playing too, and maybe they'd be their biggest challenge. But I mean, the Lakers, they've just looked really bad, sitting roughly at like 500 at this point in the season. It almost seems like unacceptable. And I know you might say like, oh, they got like regular season fatigue and all this stuff, but it's like they've also had a lot of guys like in and out, and they really haven't found any consistency together at all. Like LeBron went out early and then LeBron comes back and now AD comes out. But even in those games they were together on, like all three of them, they didn't look good. Like Anthony Davis like was incredibly soft. I believe we even talked about it like when he came on my show about like I hate how AD's like so soft and stuff. And then like, I mean, LeBron, I think he started off the year a little slow, but ever since he came back, he's played really good. And then Westbrook has just been very bad. And it's kind of funny. Like, it's kind of weird how, like you got to realize, like he definitely hears what people are saying about him. And the fact that people for almost the first 2 months of the season were like, oh, like, can he have a game where he doesn't turn the ball over like 7-8 times? Can he have a game where he can shoot well from the field or whatever? And then it's like, okay. And then now he has like some 0 turnover games since, and he still isn't shooting well from the field at all. And he's getting like, he goes from a triple double to a triple single, so it's like your impact that everyone says, like you're one of the greatest ever to like get the triple doubles and stuff like that. It's like all gone. Like you're supposed to be the second guy on the team when Anthony Davis isn't there, like you're a former league MVP. But personally, like I've always been kind of critical of Westbrook. I didn't think it would fit in this team. I don't know. He just kind of looks like a football player trying to play basketball out there. So I don't know. Like that.
It's a really good analogy, actually. That's a really good
one. Bull in a China shop.
but I don't know. I mean, I just think that, like, I don't know who's going to want him, though. It doesn't seem like anyone really is, wanting to target Russell Westbrook in the trade market, but they got to do something. I think the GM's gonna have to work his magic.
He's gonna have to work, man. But all right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Lakers have been absolutely having a disappointing season so far. But actually, that's not who I have. My most disappointing team. I actually have the Atlanta Hawks, man. I mean, we just saw them make an Eastern Conference Finals run last year. Now they're not even in the play-in situation. They've lost 9 in a row games at home. If you're losing on the road, you don't want to be losing anywhere, but if you're losing on the road, okay, I get it. That's acceptable, but you need to protect home court. And for the last 9 games in a row, they've lost at home. They're on a 4-game losing streak right now, man. So I just think that with the players you have and with the run you just made, literally the previous year, I think that you should at least be sitting anywhere in the top. I would say top 6. I would say anywhere in the top 6, you should expect the Hawks to be sitting in, and for them to be out of the top 10 is definitely disappointing to me, man. But all right, man. So then let's keep it pushing, and let's go to our next little question that we have here, and that is, who is your turnaround team of the second half? So they maybe they haven't had the greatest first half of the season, but you think they'll have a great second half and playoff of the second half of the season.
I mean, I think obviously, like, man, I don't know. See, it all depends, because I'm looking at like when some of these players could come back. And I've heard like some positive like reports on their 2 best players potentially being back in enough time in the season. But if that's the case, I'm picking the LA Clippers. I think they've already played this year pretty well. I mean, like they're 500 and or so, and their best player has arguably been like Eric Bledsoe and Marcus Morris and Brandon Boston. Like if you just laid out on a piece of paper all these guys, you'd be like, no, that's dead last in the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference, even maybe, or around there. And I think the way that they're still like top 8 in the Western Conference, that's pretty impressive. And if they get guys like Paul George back, if they get Kawhi Leonard back, who it sounds like Kawhi is ahead of schedule on his return. So if that's the case, like, who knows? Like, they might be able to push into like maybe a 5 or 6 seed at least by the end of the year. And then no team really wants to see them in the playoffs at full strength. I'm trying to think like who else could be, like maybe the Knicks. Like they're missing a few guys right now. D Rose is out, but I don't know. Like I'll stick with the Clippers. That'll be my pick.
Okay. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, no, Garrett said it best. Like, I'm gonna have to agree with him again. I think the Clippers, the team that made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, despite some people saying they're overrated and this and that. I think Ty Lue honestly doesn't get enough credit, especially being 21 and 22 without their 2 best players at this point. Like Garrett said, they shouldn't even be there. Honestly, sitting in that play-in game, 7th or 8th seed, I believe what they are right now. And I think that they're poised to make a turnaround and get to maybe even the playoffs, like a playoff spot in the top 6 seed. And I really foresee that I know that Hartenstein, a guy who's slept on, he's coming back, I think, believe today. or he's questionable today, and he's a good piece, a good centerpiece for them. I honestly think he should be starting for them. But when they even get Paul George or Kawhi back potentially this season, I think, yeah, like you said, any team in the West wouldn't want to see them because they can be very dangerous, especially how deep they are. One of the deepest teams in the West, in my opinion. So the Clippers are poised for a turnaround, if you want to call it that, in the second half.
Absolutely, man. The team that I think is poised for a turnaround is actually the Lakers, man, because not only have them and the Magic been the team that's been most affected by players missing, whether it's been through injuries, through COVID, so they haven't really had a chance to have a full healthy roster. I mean, Garrett, even you said like first LeBron went down, then AD went down, but also another point that I really want to bring up is like, you know, AD is always crying and complaining about playing the 5, and he doesn't want to play the 5, and he's always crying. I want to play the 4, right? But now that AD has been out and LeBron has been playing the 5, there is just LeBron is 37 and he's playing the 5. There's absolute no excuse in the world as to why when AD comes back, he's in the dead center of his prime right now, and he has LeBron James, a 37-year-old, playing the 5, not complaining, but AD can't do it, man. So that's why I think that once AD comes back, once the Lakers gets healthy and AD comes back, there's no reason, there's no excuse for him to cry and complain this time to not play the 5. And when AD plays the 5, I mean, we see what he can do, man. When he brings it, when he actually chooses to bring that effort and try on the defensive end, he's definitely a elite 5 in this league, man. So I definitely think that this little stint of him being out and LeBron having to play the 5 will force him to come back and play this 5. And then maybe the Lakers will get a chance to have a fully healthy roster for the second half of the season. And then also, I mean, we know LeBron, it's what he does. Like he ramps up near the playoffs. But just one thing I do want to bring up is that he's always ramped up before the playoffs and started to play a lot better on, I would say, better teams. Every time he did that, he was on a better team than he currently is on right now. And I don't know if all these other players have the same ability that LeBron has to, you know, 2 months and a half to like 2 months or like a month before the playoffs start turning it up. So I definitely think that the Lakers should take that into account. LeBron should take that into account, that not everybody is LeBron James, man. So
I will say, I think that they will have a chance for sure to flip the switch. I mean, like, just from the standings, I believe, like, I think Portland's in 10th right now, right? And they're like, I think 4 or 5 games back of, like, I think Minnesota's in 9th. So there's a big enough gap there that the Lakers, they should finish no lower really than 9th. So no matter what, they're going to be like at the very worst in the play-in, and they're going to have like a playoff atmosphere where it's like, all right, we got to flip the switch like right now. So, I mean, we'll probably see that like at some point, like what's like the best out of the Lakers, you know, but
yeah. And I mean, it's once you're at the bottom, you can only go up, man. So it'll be easier to turn around. So, all right. And then let's flip to the other side. So let's talk about who's your falling team. Like what team do you think, whether they did bad in the first half of the season or whether they did good, do you think that they'll do even worse or they'll do worse the second half of the season? Who's your falling team?
I think the Trailblazers, man. I think especially without their leader and Dame, it's going to give a lot of. We've seen Anthony Simons, kind of shine recently. CJ's coming back, but I just don't. Ultimately, I think they're going to be shopped and getting rid of some guys. They're going to be Rocco, I think, is gone. I think Nurkic, potentially some contender or a team, trying to make a push for the playoffs is going to be interested in him. Maybe Toronto, I don't know. But I think the Blazers are going to be falling out of that 10 spot, and a team like the Spurs, who I mentioned earlier, or the Kings, will kind of make a push for that play-in spot. And I think the Blazers just ultimately got to accept their fate. Dame, I think he got surgery. The timeable right now is 4 to 6 weeks. He feels better, which is better than expected, which I think it was originally 6 to 8 weeks. But I just ultimately think he's going to be shut down for the rest of the season. And they're not really, you make the play-in game, so what? You're going to lose to whoever the 9 seed is at that point. So I think I don't think anything's going to get better for the Blazers. They got to realize that backcourt of CJ and Dame, the expiration date has passed on that, and I think they got to make a move. Either one of them or both, I don't know, but I think the Blazers are going to set for a kind of a bumpy ride here to end the season.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to roll with the Washington Wizards on this. And for the fact that I believe they've played, I think outside of the Lakers, I think they've played the second most games in overtime this year. And they're really good in those overtime games. I will give them credit there. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to overtime so many more times than other teams, then that means like you're kind of barely holding on. And I feel like that's kind of been the case, even for some of the games that haven't gone to overtime for them. Seems like they're barely holding on in their games. Once some of these other teams get healthy and 100%, like we've seen people out, for a variety of reasons already this year. So once these other teams get the full strength, I mean, I think the Wizards are probably going to dip down. I mean, we talked about teams like the Celtics, the Hawks, even really the Knicks, I think at full strength are probably better than the Wizards. But I don't know. And I mean, I don't think that the Bulls necessarily, I don't think we're going to fall off because I think we'll still be like one of the better teams in the East. But right now we're in first in the East, and I don't know if we'll necessarily stay there. I think we might end up like third or fourth. So, and we'll still be like really good going into the playoffs. A serious team that you don't want to, probably face in the first round for sure. But I don't know. Like, I think that teams like the Bucks, like once they get healthy, the Heat have played good already, and they're getting Bam back, I think, on Monday. So yeah, like the Nets as well. Like they just got Kyrie back, at least for the away games, maybe the home games soon too. So I don't know. It's just like, and the Sixers as well. Like they've been playing great. So it's hard. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls slid a bit in the standings, but I think we should still be fine, like going into the playoffs, and we will avoid that play-in for sure.
Garrett, real quick before you answer, just about what you said about the Bulls, I want to know from you. And when I say contender, I mean a team who's going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals for sure, maybe in the finals. Do you see the Bulls, if contender is that word, are the Bulls a contender to you in the East? They're better than the Nets. They're better than the Bucks. They're beating those teams and getting to the finals, potentially, definitely in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I mean, it's possible, but I wouldn't really put us, at least right now, like we haven't proven enough to be in a tier with the Nets, with the Bucks. And maybe one could even say the Heat, the way they've had so many guys out. Guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus have gotten like huge playing time for them. Omer Yurtseven. So like, no one could have predicted they'd be sitting where they are right now with those guys. Maybe like we're in a class with like the Sixers or something like that. I think there's about probably 5 teams in the East that you'll want to like look out for. And we're one of those 5 teams for sure. But I don't know if we're the favorite, and I don't know if we're the second team. I think those are probably the Nets and Bucks, no matter how you arrange it. So until like we probably prove a little bit more, I don't think a 1-game edge as the first seed says enough at this point in the season.
Okay. Absolutely. I like that. And then for me, man, my falling team is that I actually think it's going to be the Sacramento Kings, man. I mean, like how we said, we think they're going to ship a lot of their players come the trade deadline. And right now they're sitting in the 10th seed with that 3-game win streak. So I think, things are starting to look good, but things never look too good in Sacramento for too long. So yeah, I think that they definitely will be the falling team. And then let's get to our second last here, halfway through the season question, and that is who has had the best game performance. And I want to go first on this one, guys, because this one was one of this is honestly a historic game. And I want to talk about November 8th, 2021, man. That was the Warriors versus the Hawks. Stephen Curry put a 50 point double, 50 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 100% from the field. But what I will really want to highlight, and if you go back and watch that game, you're going to see the amount of plays that Steph Curry affected the game and helped the Warriors. Whether it wasn't just come down court and shimmy shoot a three, he was affecting the game off the ball. Man, he had a his plus minus stat was plus 31, dog. So he just had a great game that game. So I definitely think that so far this season, that's been the best game performance. But I don't know, Garrett, if you got one loaded up already and you want to go, you got some good options with DeMar.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously being in that Pacers Bulls game, that one was a really feel good game for sure. Mm-hmm. Recently, I believe Giannis had a crazy game. He had a 30-point triple-double in limited minutes against, Golden State. So that's got to be up there. And I think also Fred VanVleet, also his 30-point triple-double game, that was pretty insane. Ant had a nice game. I think he dropped 48 against the Warriors, but they lost. But I think I'm going to roll with the guy who I believe has the most points in a game so far this year, and that's Kevin Durant and his 51-point game. I mean, he was just unreal. And I mean, that kind of is the story of who KD is. But yeah, it was just one of those classic KD type of games. And he could probably, if he wanted to, he could have a lot more games like that. But he's more of that consistent scorer. I think he's only had one game all year where he scored less than 20, and he scored 19. So I mean, that just says all you need to know about him. And yeah, I'm a roll with that.
Okay, what about you, Jay?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna say that Steph thing, but I believe, I don't remember when it was, honestly, but I mean, I could do a lot of Bron games, but one specifically, I can't remember who it was against, honestly, and I wasn't able to pull it up. But his 40 piece, I don't know if it was in a losing effort, but this guy, you could just name. I could honestly sit here and name a lot of games that LeBron's been eating, a lot of stat lines. His 30, his 36, 7, and 8. It's anytime I look up and look at any one of his games, he's putting kind of those numbers. But I will say his and any Jokic game, any triple double game that he's been putting up this season. Both of those guys have been balling at MVP levels this year. And obviously that KD game that you mentioned, Garrett, was great. So, but I'll say that LeBron 40-piece game where he had a triple-double, I believe, just a historic performance, especially at his age, being able to do this speaks a lot to his IQ and how he can affect the game in different ways. So,
absolutely. And then last question for this halfway through the season, and this one I really am excited to hear both your guys' question is, who has been the best overall player? Just best overall player through the first half of the season. If you had to take a number one pick from the first half of the season, who would you take?
I mean,
go ahead, Greg.
Okay. So far in the season, I mean, it's kind of weird because I feel at least for the MVP race, I feel that's a whole different situation. But who I think has been the most important to their team, even if they're not number one in MVP, I think it's got to be a tie probably between Nikola Jokic. I think he's putting up insane numbers. You look at his supporting cast, he's missing Jamal Murray. He's missing Michael Porter Jr., who really didn't start off the year well. And then he's been missing Aaron Gordon for a lot of games. He just got him back recently. But, I mean, all these guys have been gone for him. And it's you got guys like Campazzo and Austin Rivers. It's your best help. And Will Barton's missed a lot of games too. So I think you got to give him credit there. And the other one I'm going to say is probably the guy who's been the best player in the league over the past month, and it's got to be Joel Embiid. I think that, you look at the team when he plays, they're 21-9. And I actually just tweeted about this before we started. They're 21-9, and they have a plus 5.5 net rating when he plays. When he doesn't, they're a minus, almost a -9 net rating, and they're 3-8. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. They're losing just about as many games without him as with him, except with him, they've played 3/4 of the season. So I don't know. I think that he's definitely got to be up there as one of the best players in the league. You look at especially all the drama that's gone on with Ben Simmons, and everyone's oh, this team needs to blow it up. But Meanwhile, Joel Embiid's out here playing like an MVP candidate. So,
okay, what about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Joker, man. I somehow this dude, after coming off an MVP year, is still underrated. Just being able to, like Garrett said, with all these guys out, including Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, who's their second best player when he's healthy, potentially could be coming back. But to keep them afloat, 2 games above 500, to do what he's done, just put up historic, unreal numbers, night in, night out, affect the game in the number of ways he does. Even a defensive improvement, which remember in the last offseason and the postseason, Draymond Green calling him out, him coming up, taking that personally and being able to, play at defense at a higher level, which is huge in his improvement as a player. And this guy, any teammate, I know, you ask any Denver Nuggets, I mean, they love playing this guy. He can get them open, he can get them shots that they need. And he's for sure been the best player in the league, in my opinion, this year. But KD and Giannis for me are right there, right under him. So the MVP race is not. I know we're not saying we're MVP, like you said, is not the same as best player in the league, but I think Jokic has been the best player in the league so far. So about halfway through the season. So.
Okay, absolutely. And honestly, I really wanted to go with Giannis just because he's just been so freaking dominant. Like sometimes it generally just looks like he's playing with kids out there, and when he gets in the paint, it just looks crazy. But the point that both of you guys brought up is just so true, man. Jokic has literally held his team in place, has kept his team afloat. Like honestly, they kept his team relevant. Without Jokic, they would have been probably, to be real with you, like not even in the play-in, to be real with you, man. So yeah, I gotta go with Jokic because I have to take in his importance to the team, and when he's not there, how they're performing, and when he is there, how they perform, man. So yeah, I'm right there. I'm right there with you guys. I'm happy we got a 3-way tie on that one, man. But all right, man.
So let's transfer it and transition here to talk about some games and what we saw. So first game I'm going to talk about last night's game, January 14th. And that was the Golden State Warriors versus Chicago Bulls. Warriors obviously won this one big, 138 to 96, 42-point win for the Warriors. but man, this was just, it was close in the first quarter, but obviously the game kind of all happened, and the Warriors were able to pull away in the second quarter, where they won, 41-19. Obviously, Zach LaVine went down early with a knee injury, and luckily, reports, actually breaking news during this episode, we saw that luckily, and it was only something not serious. The Bulls have said that they're going to reevaluate LaVine's knee in a week. Our MRI came back negative, so luckily no structural damage or anything. So they're just taking precautions, which is great to hear. I know for Garrett, as well as any NBA basketball fan, never want to see a guy go down early. But just a lot of what we saw in this game was how the Warriors respond. Obviously, they got it taken to them, just absolutely bullied and dominated and embarrassed, run off the floor in Milwaukee. That game ended up, they only ended up losing by 18, but it was obviously, all cosmetics there. They got just absolutely destroyed and handled by Giannis, the defending champs. And how would they respond the next night, back to back, without their leader, their offensive catalyst, and Draymond Green, as well as Klay Thompson out of the lineup for this one? And they responded great. They started off the game with 4 straight buckets. I believe 2 of them from Andrew Wiggins come off. They've been struggling shooting. They're able to come back in this one and shoot the ball better. We saw the same thing from the Bulls. Lonzo Ball hitting, I believe, 3 of 3, 4 of 6, I believe, to start the game. So in this one, I thought it was going to be a shootout. And it ended up being kind of the opposite, shootout for the Warriors, and kind of less for the Bulls. They're able to not really get anything going. I think a lot of that to do was with LaVine being out of the lineup, but that was just the kind of a summary and synopsis of the game. Second half wasn't really close. Besides the fourth quarter, the Bulls were able to cut down and only lose by 2 in that fourth quarter. But we got obviously a big Bulls fan in here. I know it's tough. I know if this was the Warriors, it'd be tough for me to talk about. But I know you on Twitter, were very vocal about your frustrations and what you saw from the Bulls. So I would just want to hear from the man himself about how you felt about this game. And kind of not how you felt, just what you saw in this game and kind of why the score the way it was.
See, personally, like in terms of like a lot of the games that we played so far this year, the one that I wanted to win, like the next matchup of the most, was probably the Warriors, just because of how their fans usually get on Twitter. And I'm like, okay, I want to have like that revenge. Sure enough, we come out and we lose by like 40 plus 42, I think you said it was. But yeah, like I even got to a point where I had to turn the game off, be like, and that's really rare for me because like, I watch almost every game. I just
me the night before, man. It was me the night before against the Bucks. So I feel you.
But the other thing is too, and you bring that up, that was also me the night before the Bucks game, like when they got blown out by the Nets. And you bring up a good point when you say like, the Warriors, like they just got embarrassed the night before. How would they respond? Well, the Bulls' most recent game before that against the Nets, they got embarrassed too. And then it's like, who was going to come to respond in this game? The Bulls had kind of everything their way. They were on their home court. Obviously they had built more momentum over the past several weeks. And then, no Klay Thompson, no Draymond Green, no Gary Payton II. And everyone's like, oh, the Bulls are going to win this. Like, this is going to be easy. Well, no, they literally got destroyed and they got embarrassed. And I saw a lot of the big problem that kind of concerns me in these two games, or both these last two games. And it's just like, you asked me earlier, John, you're like, where do you put the Bulls necessarily as like contenders? And I'm like, I just don't see us right now as, doing anything in the sense where it's like, we're on the level of the Bucks, we're on the level of the Nets. And part of it is coaching, I think, because I don't see anything personally from what Billy Donovan does where he actually like has us run good cohesive sets. I mean, a lot of it, he relies on isolation from DeMar DeRozan. He relies on isolation from Zach LaVine. He relies on Lonzo Ball to make like almost it's like a 5-second offense, 5-second or less offense. It's like Mike D'Antoni, but on like juiced, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to say that word, but it's almost like he doesn't know how to use Nikola Vucevic, doesn't know how to use Kobe White. And as a result, this is why you see these guys, they might go off one game and then they suck horribly the next game. And it's not like this is something new for him either. Like, this is the same guy who played Kyle Singler big minutes on the 2016 OKC team. The one that was up 3-1 on the Warriors, the guy that played Raymond Felton as the backup point guard for the Thunder a few years ago when he was like cheeseburger size at that point. This is the guy that played Corey Brewer over Jeremy Grant, on the 2018 team. And you look at all that in hindsight, the guy that buried Campaign on the bench, it just seems like he doesn't have a recognition for fit, for situation, for talent sometimes. And it's annoying, like he tries running out there with the smallest team possible. We get destroyed in the paint. And normally teams, especially like when they run a zone, I don't know if you guys saw the Bulls Heat game like about a month or two ago. They ran a zone against us and we got embarrassed. Like it was just really bad. So that's what I saw from the game. One team is able to turn it around and they have more championship experience too on their side. And the other team didn't. So like, I was kind of upset with that. And I also was looking through a stat that no team ever in NBA history has won a championship after losing consecutive games by 25 or more. The Bulls just lost by 26 and 42. So that's you either got to rewrite history or history is already written for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't. That's just how I felt about that game. Yeah.
Yeah. And real quick to add to that, a lot of that, I understand that frustration and that was great analysis from what you saw from Bulls fans perspective and just an NBA perspective as well, basketball perspective. But another thing I saw in that game, anytime like you're big, and why I don't see the Bulls as legitimate contenders by definition of being in the Eastern Conference Finals, actually potentially being in the finals representing the East, is Nikola Vucevic and that lack of front court depth. Until they address that need, I think Patrick Williams, like you said, would have been great to have him healthy, a young player. He's a great defender. Kawhi light, I can see that comparison, as people have said. Maybe it's early for that, but there's this very a lot of similarities between the two. But anytime, number one, against the Nets, like you said, Day'Ron Sharpe, a former G leaguer, bullying 20-7 against Nikola Vucevic and that backcourt for the Bulls. And then the next night, Kevon Looney, who I love Kevon Looney, but he should not be dominating a matchup against Nikola Vucevic and the Bulls backcourt. They should take that personally and eliminate and neutralize him out of the game. And anytime he's able to do that, I just think it's going to be trouble for the Bulls. Adding to the fact that, I don't think Billy Donovan is, a great coach. And that is a proven track record of having talented teams, but not knowing how to utilize, like you said, utilize his guys, being up 3-1. That's just magnified, obviously, but you look to his team now, there's a lot of pieces he can be utilizing better. And he hasn't been able to do that. So that's why my concerns about the Bulls being contenders for that by definition.
I will just before you get here, John, I will just add one more thing. And I know the players, you can't excuse them because their effort the past few games has been very bad. I've been disappointed with them as well. But at the same time, it's their effort was better 2-3 games ago. So I'm expecting that to change. The thing that hasn't changed over the year is that Billy Donovan still isn't adjusting to the game. Another thing too, that Thunder team with KD and Russ, and then the Bulls now, neither of them were, really high volume 3-point shooting teams. So it's almost like he seems stubborn to adjust to the modern NBA. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm right there with both of you guys. Jay, you highlighted the number one thing I was going to highlight, man. I don't think that that the Warriors are a crazy good front court team. I don't think that the Warriors should be dominating you in the low post. I don't think that the Warriors should be scoring 57 points in the paint, but they did that against the Chicago Bulls team because the Bulls because Vucevic isn't being that rim protector that the Bulls need, man. So, honestly, for this game, not really much to get into. You guys covered really almost all of it. The only thing is that, man, the Bulls really need somebody to step up if Zach LaVine goes down like that again. And and DeMar DeRozan definitely did his thing, but at least for me, I need to see more from Vucevic. I need to see more from Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball, yes, he tries to be a pass first point guard, but once Zach LaVine goes out, and Zach LaVine only plays the first 3 minutes of the game, now you need to be extremely aggressive. Now you need to attack. You need to be looking to score a bit more than just being that pass first point guard, man, because this game exposed a lot of weaknesses from the Bulls, man. But overall, great game, blowout by the Warriors, man. So, hats off. Congratulations to the Warriors. I know Garrett wasn't liking this one, man, but
I was not. No,
that was a terrible game. Even as a Warrior fan, I thought it was going to be closer, honestly. And from blowouts from either side, it's not really a good watch. Maybe even I love the win for Warriors fans' sake, but you'd like to see a more competitive game.
And it's funny because in practice the other day, they talked to Billy Donovan and he said, "Oh, everyone has a chip on their shoulder from the Nets game." And I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna come out and we're gonna play with energy against the Warriors." Sure enough, we play even worse. Yeah, so that was just bad to watch, and it felt embarrassing. Last night, I had an hour where I was just man, I don't it. This is just pathetic. I was just lost almost.
Yeah. That's what a good team would do to you, man, if you don't come prepared. So all right, man. So So then let's keep it pushing, man, and let's talk about the Mavericks. The Mavericks ending the Grizzlies 11-game win streak last night, man. The Mavericks won 112-85. And guys, when I tell you this game was the definition of tale of two halves. I mean, the Grizzlies got off to a great start, man. They were forcing the Mavs to play up to their speed, and that's not what the Mavs want to do. The Mavs want to play a slow down type of game, but the Grizzlies and Ja want to push it, and that's what they did, and that forced the Mavs to have nine turnovers before halftime, man. So that's definitely terrible from the Mavs perspective. And then the Grizzlies, the Grizzlies were able to control the pace. Ja Morant scored 15 of his 19 total points in the first half, so you can see that the Grizzlies just had total dominance. They outscored the Mavs both in the first quarter and the second quarter. But most importantly, they were able to contain Luka. Luka only had 9 points coming into the first half, and then halftime hit. And guys, when I tell you everything changed, I really felt like I was watching Space Jam, and like the Monstars just came and just took Ja's powers, because Luka all of a sudden became Ja. Like Luka literally had basically a perfect second half, right? He had 18 of his 27 points in the second half, 7 of his 12 total rebounds in the second half, and only missed 2 shots, man. So he had an amazing second half, and he's a big reason that they won this game. But just real quick before I keep talking about Luka, I don't want Jalen Brunson to get overlooked here, guys, because Jalen Brunson is constantly getting overlooked, and he has been keeping the Mavs honestly alive for these games that Luka's been on the bench, or these games that Luka's missed. This game, he scored 15 points, 9 assists on 53% from the field. And what I found most impressive was that he actually played more minutes than Luka, and he was the primary ball handler. He only had 1 turnover to Luka's 6 turnovers. So like that's definitely something that I just want people to, keep in mind. You mentioned that Jalen Brunson is a solid backup guard in this league, man. And then just so real quick, I remember I said everything changed in that second half, and the Grizzlies, who only had 5 turnovers in the first half, ended up with 14 turnovers by the end of the game, man. So they just started playing extremely sloppy. They just really collapsed, and the Mavs defense churned up. And then Ja Morant, the person who actually leads the league right now in points in the third quarter, only scored 2 third quarter points. And then that ended up being all she wrote, man. The Mavs took it home, and Luka didn't even have to play the last 4 minutes of the game, because the Mavs already had it in the bag, man. So I don't know if you guys were able to catch that game. So I don't know if you guys want to give some thoughts on it, but overall, man, just tale of two halves, but great performance by Luka, man.
Yeah, I caught parts of the game. Obviously, like I was still a little bit like, upset from the Bulls and how they got blown out. But no, I did catch like kind of the end of the game, and I think it was important for the Mavericks. I mean, like they did also just end, like when we were on a 9-game winning streak, the Mavericks were the ones who ended that. And now they come out and end the Grizzlies 11-game winning streak. So I think that they're trying to like make a statement there. And I think honestly, Luka made, it might not have been his best game of the season, like statistically, but I think this was probably like his biggest statement game of the year, because what everyone's been saying like all year long, like outside of like Curry, of course, I think everyone's talking about like who's that next point guard, and everyone's like Ja Morant, Trae Young. Mm-hmm. Luka hasn't gotten that respect because he's been out like a long time, and he probably took it personally to the point where it's like, all right, like I'm gonna show him up. Like when we play head to head, I think it's kind of similar to like what kind of Dame did to Luka last year, and he saw it as like, all right, now it's my turn to teach these guys like what I'm about. You know what I mean? So I think it was important for that. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of surprised that the Grizzlies like kind of just folded at the very end there. But of course, like there is some exhaustion. You can't really fault them that much when they go on an 11-game winning streak. And they had a lot of big wins too, like over that time, that I think like, it shows that they're kind of like a serious team. You still can't overlook them. But yeah, the Mavericks, if they're healthy, who knows like what they could do in the playoffs. I mean, they've always gave the Clippers a scare. But of course, Kawhi was always playing like elite as well, and they always got the job done. So I don't know, like I don't think teams really want to see the Mavericks at full strength in the playoffs either, but that's just what I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it was a huge game for the Mavericks. Number one, and one of the biggest reasons for that is they had been going into their last game and the previous game against the Knicks, where they lost by 22. Obviously, a very bad loss to a struggling up and down 500 Knicks team. They had won 6 straight games. To your point, Garrett, in that stretch, they beat the Bulls, they beat the Nuggets, and they beat the Warriors. So that's a lot of confidence they've been building. And it was kind of a letdown loss against the Knicks at the Garden, losing by 22. And you're going to get knocked out. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have some bad losses, as we've seen with the Bulls, as we've seen with the Warriors. But it's about, you can judge the character and kind of the grit and grind of a team is how they respond the next game. And they respond beautifully against, the surging Grizzlies, who had won 11 straight there. And they won in a dominant fashion too. So definitely something to build on for the Mavericks, who are really rolling right now, winning 6 of the last 7 or 7 of the last 8. So I think another, like you said, to your point, Garrett, about Luka kind of proving and putting that talk to rest for now, I guess, and getting the best of Ja, who I believe in the next 5 years, who John asked me who would I have between Trey, Luka, and Jason Tatum. Out of those, I would personally take Ja, but Luka, big listener of Clutch Talk, heard that and I was like, man, okay, I hear you, and put together a performance and put his team in a position to win by a lot. So that's key takeaways are a little bit to say to that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that was just a great game, and I mean, it was Luka versus Ja, man, and we definitely got to see two great talents, and now we get to really watch them grow up. We're gonna get to watching, as NBA fans, NBA lovers, we're gonna get to watch these guys go from these young cats that they are to the OGs in the game. So we're blessed, man, just to get to watch those guys. Nice. So, all right, guys. So then let's go ahead and start to wrap the episode up. And Garrett, I know you kind of like a little bit new to Clutch Talks, but over here we do a Player of the Week every single week, man. And this is one of me and Jay's favorite episodes, because we like to talk about who's had a great week. And I want to kick mine off first, only because Jay, for the first time, we got a back-to-back Player of the Week, because last week this guy was also my Player of the Week, but this week he is going to be it again. He's just earned it, man, and that's Ja Morant, dog. Ja Morant, out of those last 10 games, he's 27 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 51% from the field, 74% from the free throw line, 41% from three. But what's most impressive is that he only had one loss, and it was his loss last night to the Mavericks. So just huge hats off to Ja, doing a great job, and honestly locking himself as that all-star starter for that second guard over Luka, man. But Jay, I don't know if you got yours loaded up and ready to go yet, but you ready or what?
Yeah, for sure. I think Ja is a great one, but since he got it last week for us, I'm gonna go with Mr. Buzzer Beater this week, Brandon Ingram, who's been balling this past week for the Pelicans, kind of keep them in the play-in conversation, if you want to say that. In this past week, averaging 27.8 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 6.3 assists on 54% from the field, 53% from the 3-point line, and 89% from the free throw line. So he's just been, making an all-star push. Doubt he'll get that, but leading to the Pelicans to a 3-1 record in that span in this past week. So got to give it to my guy BI. There's some praise for that.
Okay.
But Garrett, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely thinking about both Ja and Brandon Ingram. I think I'm gonna roll with, personally though, I mean, I believe he's averaging about 25 or so points per game over the last 4. And they're on a 4-game winning streak, and I'm going to go with Tyler Hero. The way he's played off the bench, I think that not enough people are really talking about him. I mean, really not enough people are talking about the Heat, which is weird, because they're one of the bigger markets probably in the league, and they've been without Bam Adebayo for so much time. They've been without Jimmy Butler. I think he's missed 15 games now. But Tyler Hero, he's played just about every game, and he's been like kind of their first option throughout the season. And he's averaging over 20 points a game. And the way he's played over the past few games, I mean, and they haven't lost, I got to give him credit there. Don't know if he'll be an all-star, but he'll definitely get some consideration for it. And I think that he kind of deserves to get that consideration.
Okay, for sure. I like that, man. Tyler Hero, Brandon Ingram, man. So you guys at home, you guys let us know who is your player of the week. Is it Jaws or Brandon Ingram? Is it Tyler Hero? Is it somebody else, man? So you guys, go ahead and let us know in the comment section down below. And then last segment that we got here is just game predictions, man. So when you guys will be hearing this episode, it's going to be Monday, January 17th, and we got a good slate of games. So you guys ready to run off your predictions?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So first game on Monday is going to be the Pelicans versus the Celtics.
I think this is a trap game, and especially the way the Pelicans have played. I don't know. Are the Celtics the home team?
The Celtics are the away team.
Oh yeah, then I'm a roll Pelicans. I think that the way they've been playing, I think they're gonna take it.
Okay. Yeah, me too. We'll go with Pelicans in that one.
Pelicans, yeah, I'm gonna go with Pelicans on that one as well. And the next game of the day, we got the New York Knicks versus the Hornets.
I'm gonna go with the Hornets.
Ooh, yeah, give me Charlotte until D Rose comes back. It's hard to
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys, Charlotte, man. And then 76ers versus the Wizards.
76ers versus the Wizards. I'm gonna go with the 76ers. Can't ever count out Joel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. First round rematch from last year. I'm a roll with Philadelphia though as well.
Me too. I'm right there rolling Philadelphia. But it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be Brooklyn versus the Cavs.
Ooh. See, the Cavs gave them a lot of troubles last year. But is it so? Wait, is the game in Cleveland or is it in Brooklyn?
The game is in. Give me a second. Let me check. It is in Cleveland.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a roll with Brooklyn. I think they should have Kyrie, so I'm gonna take them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Brooklyn as well. Yeah, with Kyrie, all those guys. I think the length of Cleveland will bother the Nets, but I still think they'll with that trio. I don't think anyone's beating them at full strength.
Okay, I'm actually gonna swerve on this one, man. Just what you said, Jay. That length, I think, is really gonna get to them. I mean, we know the Nets do not have the greatest big men, and the Cavs have three, not great, but you would say above average big men.
You mean they got Day'Ron Sharp, man?
Yeah, you're right. My fault. Yeah, you're right, Jay. My fault.
The Bulls killer, Day'Ron Sharp.
All right, man. So then this is gonna be a really good game. This is gonna be the Bulls versus the Grizzlies. Who you guys got on that one?
Ooh.
Oh, I'm going with it, and I'm gonna go with the Grizzlies just because it's on. I think it's on NBA TV, isn't it? The
TNT
game? Or TNT. Oh, well, it's even more of a spotlight. The Bulls haven't played good on national television at all this year. They played bad against the Warriors twice. They played bad against the Nets, and they played bad against Philly. I'm taking the Grizzlies.
Okay. What about you, Jay?
I'm gonna go with the Grizzlies as well in this one. I especially we don't know the health of Zach. If he's gonna be out for that game. I think it's just another hurdle for the Bulls. So I'm gonna go with the Grizzlies in that one.
Yeah, I'm rocking with the Grizzlies. Big bounce back as well. And then the next game is the Pacers versus the Clippers.
That's a hard one.
It's
a hard one because you think the Clippers will win because, it's just like the Pacers, but the Pacers always get these weird wins and the Pacers always choke at the end of the game. So I'm going to be safe though. I'm going to roll with the Clippers. They've been the better team this year. So I'm going to take them.
Right there with you, Clippers. In that one.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Pacers on that one. Now, I've been watching some Pacers game, and the Pacers definitely got. I feel you, Garrett. They definitely pull off those games that they're not supposed to.
They're a weird team.
They're definitely a weird team. Okay, and then what about the Jay put the little shocked emoji. All right, and then what about the Bucks versus the Hawks? It's gonna be a good game.
I disagree. I don't think it'll be a good game. I think the Bucks will just destroy them, honestly.
Okay. All right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I got the Bucks big in that one as well.
Bucks by 400.
Yeah. They're on a roll. They're just with or without Drew Holiday. They're sending a message right now to the league. So Bucks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bucks on that one. I do think it'll be somewhat of a good game. And then we got the Blazers versus the Magic.
I'm gonna go. It's hard betting on Portland, especially in these times. But I believe the Magic are on they just ended it, I think, the other day. But they were on a huge losing streak. I think that'll probably start up again. So I'm gonna take Portland.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Portland and CJ's return game as well. I think it's gonna be a huge boost for them. And there'll be, Ant Simons. It's kind of a homecoming game for him as well. Expect a big game out of him. So Portland and that one.
Yeah, I'm taking Portland as well. And Garrett, I agree with you. It's hard to bet on Portland, but I think it's even harder to bet on the Magic because they're hitting 35. So then let's get to the next game, and that's the Raptors versus the Heat. Who you guys got on that one?
I got the Heat in that one. Is it Bam? Return of Bam as well. I think that's going to be a jolt to energy, adrenaline boost for them. So I think they're going to be fired up. But I know the Raptors are going to be hungry and ready to bounce back, especially against that bad loss against the Pistons. I know they're playing tonight as well, but they're going to try to get back on a roll. But I'm going to go Heat.
Is this game in Toronto or is it in Miami?
It's in Miami.
Okay. You know what? I'm still gonna go with a weird one. I haven't done any like this yet. I'm gonna go with the Raptors because I think they'll show up that night.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Jay on this one, man. I'm gonna go with the Heat, and then the next game we got is the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Mavs.
Mavs.
Yeah, Dallas.
Mavs. Yeah. All right, and then the Spurs versus the Suns.
Suns.
Yep, same thing. I'm going with Phoenix there.
Okay, and then last game of the day is the Utah Jazz versus the Los Angeles Lakers.
Give me the Utah Jazz. I think Rudy Gobert should be back by then, and they've been really bad without him. And I think they're gonna be more motivated now. I don't know if you guys saw the thing he said about Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell, liked that tweet about it. So I think he's kind of upset about that, and I think he's going to come out and kind of put on a show, make a statement. But yeah, I think the Jazz, they should have Gobert back by then. So if that's the case, I think that they'll win.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go Jazz in that one as well. But Garrett, what did he say? I didn't even see that. What did Gobert say? Or
he said something about how the Suns players, not just their interior, but everyone's playing collective team defense or something like that. And then he pinpointed on Devin Booker, and then Donovan Mitchell ended up liking the tweet. Okay, I see you. It's almost one of those things.
Right.
And I think he was kind of ticked off by it because all right, you never said this about me. And also people were talking about remember the beef they had back when the pandemic started and the shutdown happened, and they were the two that got it. So all that started coming back around, but I don't know. I think Mitchell, he also kind of puts his mouth, what he says or whatever. He kind of just shows it on the court. So I think that he'll do that. And I don't know if they play before that game, but I still think that they'll do it against the Lakers.
Okay, for sure. And then if Rudy Gobert is back, I mean, honestly, this will be a first time on the show for these pick and plays. I'm not picking my. You always got to go with your team, but I care more about being right than I care about just picking my team. And if Rudy Gobert plays and there's no AD, sheesh, boy, is that gonna be scary. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Jazz on that one, man. But all right, guys. So man, this was. A longer one, but definitely a great episode. Garrett, man, we really appreciate you, coming on, talking some hoops with us. It was just so much fun, man. But Garrett, you got any last words to say before we get off here?
No, man. I mean, I appreciate you having me back on. I think it was good to talk about everything except the Bulls blowout losses. But I mean, again, thanks for having me on, and hopefully like the people at home enjoy the episode.
Yes, sir, man. What's up, Jay Hill? Any last words?
Yeah, Garrett, appreciate you coming on as usual. That's about it, man.
Yes, sir, man. So for all the fans, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys want to check out some of Garrett's work, I will link all of his work, his Twitter, his social medias, his everything in the description down below. So make sure you get at him, man. And that's it, man. We out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.